Good morning, Toastmasters.
Good morning.
Yes, it's election season. Even though it always seems to be election season, we know it's here officially when we see all the lawn signs. And I pity the poor realtor who's trying to get an attention with a for sale sign in front of a house this time of year. Every other ad on TV is for a candidate or a ballot measure, and more of the news is taken up with political stories, and it's not safe to enter an internet forum without flame retardant clothing. But in spite of all this attention, turnout at the polls is not what we should expect in a democracy. We've heard many stories of legislative attempts to suppress voting, but few, if any, about how to increase participation. There are a number of reasons people give for not voting. Some are philosophical, some just apathy. And for many people, the big issue is the logistics of getting to the polls. There are probably some steps we could take. Voting is no longer user-friendly. We look back nostalgically at walking to the local polling place where there might be refreshments or even a bake sale. But we live differently now. Many people work far away from where they live, and it's a chore to get to the polls on a weekday, either very early in the morning or in line after work. We could move to having all states offering vote by mail through early voting and absentee voting with no special requirements. Right now, it's a patchwork of regulation about that. We live in a world where we do everything from buying a toothbrush to taking out a mortgage online. Why is voting the holdout? We have the technology. There are efforts to get young people to register and, more importantly, to vote, but they don't always work. We now have celebrities encouraging voter registration. And one new social media tactic I read about the other day was to provide links that purport to have interesting or salacious celebrity gossip, but actually lead you to a voter registration site. Somehow I don't think that's terribly effective. I have high hopes that political interest will be stirred by the young survivors of school shootings and by events that occur in the world. But even some of our older voters drop off the rolls. I had one aunt who was the last person on earth I would ever expect to hear this from. She was one of those women who, no matter what else she was wearing, always had the great big multicolored rhinestone American flag pin on. As she became elderly, I offered to help her get her absentee ballot, and she informed me that she had not voted for years. I asked her why, and she said, "It didn't seem to make a difference whether I voted or not." Well, it does make a difference, if only because you can't complain if you don't participate. And that is my thought for the day.
And we have no guests, do we, today?
No guests. No.
I'm glad to see that there's a dozen of us here today. Thank God. My joke is going to tell one of the persons here, make them how blue they got for something. Johnny said to the mother, said, "I want you to go over and see how old Mrs. Thompson is." And so Johnny runs over, comes back, and he says, "Well, Mrs. Thompson said, it's no your damn business how old I am."
An evening meeting when they're more alert.
I love it.
Well, Steve laughed.
Christopher is a self-described mentor, entrepreneur, and tradesman. This morning, he will deliver a 5 to 7 minute speech following project number 6 in the Competent Communicator Manual, with a focus on his top 3 skills or concepts. He is called into his adult life from his experience as a Boy Scout earning the life-saving merit badge. Please welcome Christopher Manring with his speech, Life-Saving Skill Set.
Morning, Toastmasters.
Morning.
Just relax. Close your eyes. Exhale. Maybe you're on a beach. Sun in the face. And a shriek! Someone is calling for help. Where are you at this moment? Are you prepared for this moment? You are no longer at a state of rest and relaxation. You are at a state of who in the world is shrieking and what am I to do? Who is around me? Who can I call on? So there's a couple things that I want to talk about today. And the first one of three is your awareness of your surroundings. So in this moment, what are you aware of at this moment? What is it? What's going on? I'd like to think at times that I'm being my best self in that I'm reflecting and I'm being comfortable and doing my best at being present. But what does it take as far as life-saving skills to really enjoy that being present feeling? And I feel like being aware of your surroundings is very helpful for that. So if I was on that beach, maybe I would say to myself, well, there's a couple children playing over there, and there's a few on the dock, and there are some people behind me. What's going on around me? Maybe there's a child standing at the water's edge that doesn't really want to go in the water, and all of his friends are coaxing him in. Or maybe I'm not on a beach, I'm on an airplane. And there's no one paying attention to the stewardess who is describing where the emergency exit is. Are you aware of where that exit is relative to where you're sitting? Are you aware of maybe a few of the elderly people that are near you that may need help? Are you aware that it's a plane full of children? Awareness is something that you have to work on. And that's one of the things that I really found in working on my life-saving merit badge. And that led me to something else, which is called confidence. Your confidence in your skill sets, your confidence in, I am being aware, I am taking more time to think about myself in this space, to think about myself around these people. I have confidence in the skill sets that I have achieved in this lesson today, whether it's swimming or it's training in general, like exercise. Something as simple as exercise. Am I confident in my health? Am I confident in my decision making when I'm in a moment of duress? Your confidence could come in handy in a variety of situations, and when I went through this life-saving merit badge training, I found that your confidence will be most important when you do hear that shriek, when you do find there is someone that needs help, because you're going to need to make a decision, and you're going to need to be very confident in that decision. And that leads me to my next and last point, called taking action. If you're taking action and you're not confident in your decision, how effective is it going to be? If you're not taking action and you're standing there, mouth agape, who is being helped? You have to take some type of action. And one really good thing, or one really good example that I can think of in learning about these skill sets within this merit badge training, and also learning about some of these skill sets with experience from the volunteer fire department in my town. Call 911. Somebody call 911. Is anyone going to call 911 if I say somebody just call 911? Somebody? Or if you said to her or him, You call 911 right now. Is that more effective? It's much more effective. It's very common in emergency services for them to include that in their training. Because it's just so apparent that if somebody just says, somebody call 911, most people will just stand around with their cell phones. This is an incredible emergency. Look at this car wreck. That's not helpful. You call 911. You call 911. I'm going to do CPR on this person. So in regards to the life-saving merit badge, it might be that your taking action is, all right, no more cell phone, no more mouth agape. That person needs me to swim to them, and I may yell to this person, you need to call 911. So in short, to wrap all this up, it's so important for these three things: your awareness of your surroundings, your confidence in your skill sets or your decision making, and then actually get to the action. Get to the pointing. Get to the jumping in the water. Get to the point where you're actually making something happen for yourself and for someone else. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christopher.
Once a time, Ireland was known as a land of mystical creatures and fairies. Creatures like the changeling and the banshees. And those little people that we call the leprechauns. We all know about them. But we know they're not real. These creatures don't exist. But I'm going to tell you today a story that these creatures do exist. Because my brother and I have seen one of the strangest mystical creatures of all of Ireland. We have seen the Dullahan. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. Good to be here. The Dullahan indeed is a strange creature. It comes out usually after midnight, and it goes out and seeks out. It's to summon a soul, or summon his victim. It's trying to steal its soul. It will go find its victim where it happens to be, and call out its name before it tries to steal its soul. And it takes on the shape of a headless person. And though it has no head on its shoulders, it is not headless, for it carries it with him. He holds it by its hair. And its face takes on this texture of like stale bread or moldy cheese, and it's very smooth. And it has this idiotic, hideous grin from ear to ear. And its eyes have solid black pupils that dance around in its eye sockets like malignant flies. And the entire head will glow with this phosphorus of like dying material or rotting matter. And when he holds it up in the air, it will glow and provide light so that he can see across the whole dark Irish countryside. And the Dullahan is usually mounted on a black steed. It's a big, powerful black steed, and he has a human spine that he uses as a whip. And at full gallop, this horse will run so fast and powerful that sparks fly from its hoofs, and it lights the bushes along the side of the road, and flame shoots out of its nose. And the Dullahan has exceptional power of sight, for it can see for many miles around the dark country Irish countryside, but it has limited powers of speech, for it can only speak once on its journey. And then, when it gets to the spot of where its victim is, it will only say out his name just once before it tries to steal his soul. And they say that there is really no defense against the Dullahan, for he is death's herald. However, it is known that if you have an artifact or a coin of gold, that you may be able to frighten him away. For he says he has an irrational fear of this precious metal. In May of 2008, My brother Frank and his wife Connie and Debbie and myself went to Ireland. And we rented a house about 10 miles outside of Galway. And on a Wednesday night, we decided to go into Galway to visit the pubs. Maybe to have something to eat. Certainly nothing to drink, of course. But at one of the pubs, we met a gentleman, Sean O'Malley. An older gentleman, retired, had thinning white hair and a round, rosy face with a smile that would light up the room. And he was wonderful at storytelling. And as we stayed and had a few Guinnesses and maybe a drink or two of Irish whiskey, his stories became more and more enchanting. And Debbie and Connie wanted to leave early. So they left, and Sean volunteered to drive Frank and myself back to our cabin later on. So the girls left, and we stayed and had a few more Guinnesses and maybe some more Irish whiskey, and it got around a little after 1 o'clock and the bar was closing. So Sean was driving us back, and it was back around the bay. It's an old back road, it's a dirt road back to our house. And Sean maybe had a little bit too much to drink because he wasn't too steady in his way he was driving, and eventually went off the road, went into a ditch, and we got stuck there. We tried to get the car out, but we couldn't. And there we are, this quiet, dark Irish countryside in our state that we were in, trying to figure out how we were going to get this car out of here or how we were going to get home. And then suddenly, the silence was broken. We heard this low, guttural sound that we heard through the night, and it was Sean O'Malley. And we looked down the road, and there was the Dullahan, sitting on his horse, his great steed, holding his head in the air, and it was glowing in the dark. And with one whip of that spine, that horse was at full gallop, coming straight at us. Sparks were flying from its hooves, flames shooting out its nose. We were absolutely terrified. And we didn't know what to do. But we were there with Sean had his dog with him, Shadow, a German Shepherd. He was a great dog, about 100 pounds. But he had a gold chain around his neck. And Shadow went straight after the Dullahan, barking as fast as he could run. And as we watched this, as Shadow got close to the Dullahan, we heard this another painful groan, moan, like, ah! And a flash of light came on the light, and I couldn't see. When I could come back, when I could see again, the Dullahan and Shadow were gone. And the only thing that was left was the gold chain laying on the road. When the constables came and they helped get the car out, we told them our story. And they told us to go home and sleep it off. You know? They didn't believe us, you know. But when we took them on the road, not one of them could explain to us where the horse's hoof prints came from, and they stopped just before the gold chain. Now, ever since that night, when I go to Ireland, and I suggest you do the same, that if you're ever found walking around in Ireland at night, late at night, certainly in the back country, carry a gold coin or two with you, just in case, because the Dullahan does exist.
Maureen Dauphiné. All her various roles, whether realtor, mother, wife, caregiver, or friend, have depended on her ability to communicate with others. She feels the need to communicate with others is essential for building trusting, lasting relationships, both personally and professionally. She will share what she has found when assessing her own communication style and how that impacts her interactions with others. You will learn strategies to use in your own communication with others to be better understood and to better understand those who interact with you in daily life. This 5 to 7 minute speech, Is Anybody Getting Me?, is Project 2 from the Dynamic Leadership Pathway, Understanding Your Communication Style. Please welcome Maureen Dauphiné.
Good morning, Toastmasters. I'm sorry for the jean jacket. I am freezing. And for my Bugs Bunny sneakers, I have an inspection today, and I'm going to be walking in mud, so I keep it humorous. How's everybody?
Good, thank you.
Waking up.
Waking up. I am quite sure that some of you, if not all of you, have had a situation where you have tried to give somebody a very simple direction, and yet somehow it wasn't understood. Meet me at that corner at 6. They're not there. Well, I didn't know which corner. And you think, but it was so clear. What am I not doing to make you understand me? Sometimes you get so frustrated you just want to scream. The assignment that I had here was to kind of look at my own communication style. And while I think it's important to know your communication style, I don't think that's the whole picture. It's not enough. We have to learn our style in as far as, is that going to work with the person that I'm talking to? If I communicate my own style, but the person that I'm speaking to doesn't, how are we going to understand each other? It's like speaking French to an American. Doesn't work. More miscommunication. What I've learned over the years, whether it be as a realtor, because I talk to all different types of people from all different areas, whether it's as a mother, trying to get my children to understand basic directions, whether it's as a friend, where I'm trying to be supportive and understand what it is they're telling me. It's great to know how I communicate, but I need to know whether that is different or the same as the person I'm communicating with, or else we're not going to understand each other. During this example, during this lecture, I'm going to use an example of ballroom dancing. My husband and I took ballroom dancing together. Easy. Neither one of us had done it. We were learning at the same time. This shouldn't be a problem. Well, I learned a lot about communication style. I have my master's degree in healthcare, and we had to learn how to communicate with our patients over the years. This is easy. I can do this. What I learned from our little ballroom dancing is you need to throw a lot of spaghetti at the wall before you find what sticks. I forgot the basics. We all communicate in basically 3 different ways. Some of us are auditory learners. Those that are auditory learners are only about 20% of the population. Auditory learners are people who need me to speak slowly. So those of you right now in this room that are auditory learners need me to speak clearly and slowly so you understand what it is. How do I know if you're an auditory learner? Listen carefully and pay attention to the person that you're speaking to, because they will give you the clues. An auditory learner might say, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. Then you know, oh, I have to assimilate, I have to modulate what I'm doing, because I'm not an auditory learner, but that's how they are going to receive what it is I'm going to tell them. When you have an auditory learner, that's what you need to do. You need to speak slowly, give them time to process what they're hearing. The second type of learner is a very small population, and I live with one of these, which is a kinesthetic learner, and they do well with touch, with movement. They need to be comfortable. The room can't be freezing cold. It has to be a comfortable temperature. Kinesthetic learners are such a small part of the population, so misunderstood. My son was a kinesthetic learner, and you would not get that child to sit in a seat in school for anything. I lost track of the times I would go in a parent-teacher conference and they would say, Mrs. Dauphiné, your son can't sit in his seat. And I would say, well, let me ask you a question. When you come to him in class and you ask him what the answer is to what you're working on, does he get it? Well, yes, every time. Then leave him alone. My husband has worked for the last 25 years at a standing desk. Why a standing desk? Well, he just started a new job in Worcester. And he didn't want to quite tell his new boss that he needed a standing desk. He was a little embarrassed. Why would you need a standing desk? Normal people don't stand for 16 hours a day at a desk. So my husband decided, I'm not going to tell them. I'm going to work into this. So his first staff meeting, he came home that day very upset. What's the matter? I fell asleep during the meeting. I said, oh no. My boss called me in the office and asked me if I was getting enough sleep, to which then I said to him, I need a standing desk, because without it, you cannot have a conversation with my husband unless he is standing. He is a kinesthetic learner. He needs to be up, he needs to be moving in order to be alert, to communicate, and to obviously hear what you're saying. I cannot talk to him about anything important unless he is standing up, or he will go to sleep. It's embarrassing. People think he's bored. He's just one of those rare kinesthetic learners. How do we know we're dealing with a kinesthetic learner? You will hear these people say something like, I can feel what you're saying to me, or this doesn't feel right. You will see them sometimes in strange places while they're working. I am part kinesthetic learner. It drove my boss insane for years, because where would I be working? On the floor. I sit on the floor to do all of my major work that requires me to think. I can't sit at a desk. I can't do it standing up. I'm happy against the wall. It's good to know that somebody's a kinesthetic learner, because then you can make sure that your room is the right temperature, that they're comfortable, that their seats, and if they're not seats, that you make people welcome to stand. You're trying to reach everybody that you're talking to in an audience, or just one-on-one. To be flexible with that and to understand that even though my personal style may not be that, it might be theirs, and we need to accommodate to reach everyone. The last style is the most popular, and it's 60% of the population, and that is visual learners. Visual learners need you to speak quickly. I'm a visual learner. I speak quickly, and I need to learn to modulate when I'm dealing with somebody who's not a visual learner. If you say the black dog ran out in front of the car, boom! In my head, I'm seeing a black dog flying across that car. When I'm trying to communicate, I will not say it's a mile down the road. I will say it's next to the Dunkin' Donuts on the corner with the red sign at the black tree. When you want me to understand something, that's how you have to talk to me. If I don't have a picture, or if the person I'm speaking with is speaking too slowly, I go out of my ever-loving mind. I want you to hurry up so I can get the picture, and so that when I'm speaking, I don't lose the picture that's in my head. Well, I took the inventory that tells me that I am a supportive communicator, which is good. I agree with most of it. It says that as a supportive communicator, I'm typically calm. I'm steady, approachable, sincere, and gentle. I dislike change. I hate conflict, although I can mediate it when it's necessary. I'm patient. I'm amiable. I have good listening skills. I think that's great to know what I am, but I think it's more important in that I need to know what you are, so that we can both speak to each other in our own language that is understood. I would urge you, the next time that you are speaking to a group or meeting with a client or a child who may not get information the same way you do, to listen for those words. Those visual learners will say to you, I see what you're saying. I just can't picture that. As soon as you hear those trigger words, learn to modulate your own personal style so you can reach others. It's an important skill in building connections, and I urge you to try it. Thank you.
I had some sort of cold and cough early in the year, and the cough just wouldn't go away. As I had been working out, I thought, well, I'm a little sick, I better sidestep and not work out. Well, that was a mistake, because the next thing I knew, even though I thought I was eating okay, I wasn't eating as well as I thought I was. And next thing I knew, started to get a little pot belly. And it was noticeable. And I thought, oh, that's not good. And then I went to have my physical and found out I had weighed 239 pounds. Oh no! What the heck happened? I thought, okay, remedy. Bike riding. Workouts. Get back into workouts. Get going. I did a number of bike rides that were 25 miles long, but I did my longest in probably 5 years, 37 miles this past Sunday, all the way around Wachusett Reservoir and back. And then I found I had time to spare, so I added a few more miles. But then I went further. I'm going to put this over here for just a moment, and I will give you a quick demonstration. This is what is known as the squat. And the idea of doing a squat is to put your hands out like so, put your back out like this, and come down like this. And go as far as you possibly can down without overextending your knees, and hold it for 20 seconds, 10 to 20 seconds, and then rise back up. This helps your lower back, your quadriceps, which are these little gizmos down here, your legs, torso, all kinds of things. So with the table topics for today, and I'll bring this over because this thing does weigh quite a bit, but I also added in weightlifting, as in going up and down like this. There's also, as Laura said earlier, the curl. You can take this very same weight and just go back and forth and do, say, 10 to 20 repetitions. So with that said, Bill Williams, come on up. Bill, if you had your choice of weightlifting, squatting, bike riding, or any kind of exercise, which one would you choose?
Good morning, Toastmasters.
Hey, Bill. Hey, Bill.
Why are you asking me?
He's putting his hands.
That's a very good question. I actually belong to a fitness center at work, and the last month or so I haven't been going as much as I'd like to. It has to do with knee problems and so on. And we had taken a few semi-private classes, and with that I learned quite a bit about exercising. And which one would I like to do? I think I'd probably like to go all around. You need to combine aerobics. A lot of folks who are trying to lose weight just go straight aerobics, but they don't use weights. But if you use weights properly, it helps build some muscle, which actually will help burn more calories, which helps you to lose weight. And we do squats. That was something that we learned, in the class. And actually, it's very difficult. When they showed us the squats, you put your hands up over your head, and you go down straight. Knees behind the toes and so on. And it takes a while before you can maintain that posture, to do a proper squat. But I do find sometimes you're better off starting out with an instructor. They'll show you a good format. I mean, how many people are in the gym and they'll watch these guys with big weights and they kind of... So what is that? Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
All right? You want to keep a nice, go slow, different counts and so on to develop muscles. So I like a mixture of all. I think, and even body weight things. Burpees. Anybody know what a burpee is?
Yes.
Those are great for everything. You hate them when you're doing them, but you feel so good probably a couple hours after, or maybe a few weeks. I don't know. But depends on the recovery time.
Show us.
Go for it, Bill. Go for it.
Oh, the burpee?
Go for a burpee.
All right.
Before I bring her on, I did mention that in June, late June, I weighed 239 pounds. I am happy to report that 38 of those pounds have come off after all of the different types of things I've been doing. Laura, if you had your choice, I already shook your hand.
Buddy.
Hey, yeah. Now, I realize that in the summertime, you got to do something that you found you couldn't stand, which is going down the side of a rock hill, or a rock face. If you had your choice between that and the biking, I'm sure you would take the biking, but then if you did that, where would you go and how long?
Okay, let's get this bad boy out of the way.
Go on.
Good morning, everybody. Well, as you may know, I don't like rock climbing. I don't like lowering myself on ropes. The reason is, quite honestly, that I'm way too lazy to work on the upper body strength that I need to be successful at that activity. I get to sleep at night. I don't really care that I can't do a pull-up. And it doesn't bother me that I'm not going to be doing 30 super slow reps of that 20-pound weight every morning. I can live with myself. But given the opportunity to choose between rock climbing and bicycle riding, I would hands down choose bicycle riding every single time. And where I would go, the answer to that question is very different from when I was younger. When I was younger, I was a fearless bike rider. Not exactly downtown crossing, riding your bike messenger fearless, but still going places I shouldn't have gone. On a trip to Amsterdam, I got yelled at and the fist shaken up in the air by all the Dutch when I hopped up on the sidewalk to get around some cars. That's apparently not done in Holland. When I lived in Cambridge for school, I would ride all over the place, weave around in traffic like an idiot, somehow made it out to the other end alive, so I thought I was a rock star bicycle rider. When I moved to Hubbardston, which is a very rural community, I took exactly one bike ride because I realized that living on the edge of a secondary highway makes for really poor bike riding conditions, with people whipping past you at 50 miles an hour. Route 68 is a road that Steve loves. I couldn't stand it, especially towing my two kids behind me in one of those bike trailers as it's flapping in the breeze every time a semi goes by. Where would I go now? I would stick to bike trails. Absolutely. There are some lovely bike trails, newly paved bike trails in Rutland, wonderful places to explore on the Minuteman Bike Trail, and I would want to keep myself a little bit safer than I used to when I was a lot younger.
Okay. Exercise, everything from weightlifting to squats or anything in between, or no, and if not, why, or if yes, why?
Yes, I love exercising. My boyfriend not so much. Well, he climbs trees, so that is his exercise. But I always try and get him into the gym because he has bad knees, and I know that he needs to work like the muscles around his knees in order to, I don't know. I just know that he needs a regular, consistent gym routine in order to help him with tree climbing. But I personally would choose either weightlifting or yoga. Those are my two favorite ones. What I used to do in the gym is a lot more than what I do now. Over the last 6 months, I'd say I have not had a regular gym routine, and that became very clear when I signed up for this. At Everjones, we have these women's events that we get together and we do something. So one of these women signed us up for this Orange Theory gym thing, which was actually really cool. If any of you are looking for like a fun class type gym membership, I would highly recommend it. I thought it was just going to be like another Curves, but it was really cool. There was a interval part where you did it on the treadmill. They did rowing and some weightlifting, and it was very, very cool. But I did, some of you may know, but I am expecting a baby girl in March. Thank you. And so I signed up for this, pregnant and all, and I hadn't worked out regularly in the last like 3 to 6 months. And I did about half of what I normally would do. And I was dying. I was like positive that I shouldn't be doing this, but I asked my doctor and she was okay with it. But yeah, that was a very clear hint that I should get back into some sort of regular routine so that I'm not completely off track when I pop out this child. All right.
All right. Congratulations.